Okay, this is Mark Sell from the YouTube channel Therapy for the Heart, and this is a theater section. Having an artistic background, working with a lot of people in therapy and the arts, and particularly in the theater, I've developed this section of the YouTube channel Therapy for the Heart. So it's my pleasure today to be here with Idelie Perez.
Yeah.
And she was just telling me a little bit about where she grew up, which was from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Right?
Rock Slope.
Yeah, and you like it very much there? You live with your family?
Mm-hmm. I love it there. I can't see myself as of right now living anywhere else. Everything is like so accessible. There's restaurants and there's things to do all the time, and the trains are there. It's just a great neighborhood.
And you're coming off your first playwright endeavor solo.
Yes.
Yeah. So how is it to be not doing that anymore? Do you feel like there's a vacuum, or you're just really eager to get on to your next project?
When I dove into this project, I was nervous. I was anxious. It was safe to say I was stressed out. But when I got to see it produced, and when it was all over, I felt a sense of relief, but then an overwhelming feeling of sadness, because it was something that I did enjoy, and it was like, oh, now it's over. But I hope to continue. I definitely I loved working with the cast members, and I loved doing the theater and learning the ins and outs of theater and working with the tech. So I really enjoyed it, and I hope to continue on.
So you were working with Franco in the Cabrini Repertory Theater. How was that, working together with him and them helping to get you set up?
Franco was wonderful. Anything you needed, he was approachable. If I had any questions, he'd answer me so quickly. He was just a delight to work with, and I truly appreciate someone who takes time out of their schedule and their lives to give people, especially women, a platform to express themselves. So
yes, he really devotes a lot of a section of his work and devotion to women, to give them a voice. Right?
Yes, and it's wonderful.
Very good. So I noticed when you wrote me, you said that you enjoyed you mentioned that you enjoyed writing, and you received medals when you were very young.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you remember some of the pieces that you received medals for? What were your favorites?
Well, I don't remember what piece I won a medal for, but I do remember my favorite piece. I had wrote a story about how teeth feel at the dentist. So I gave them like kind of like human characteristics, and I explained how they felt, because we only take it from our end, but we don't really look at what's going on in here. But I wrote it as if the teeth were anxious at the dentist, and
that's very creative.
Yeah, I had a fun time writing that, and my teacher enjoyed it. He was laughing, so that was one of the pieces that I can remember that I wrote that I thoroughly enjoyed.
And how was it, this is your debut in directing a play.
Yeah.
What was the challenging part of it?
Oh, the challenging part, I think, was to have my vision come off the way I wanted it to, and for the message to convey to the audience the way I had hoped. And it's really hard, because you do have cast members who come in with their own personalities and their own thoughts on how their character should be. So coming to, I guess, a point where you can convey your message or the thought you had for that character, along with the ideas that they have, like trying to mesh that together, I think was it was one of my. It was just complicated for me.
How did you work that out? They may have their own idea about about the play, and their role, and you had your ideas. How did that work out?
Yeah. Well, I think having an open mind was what helped me a lot. Mm-hmm. I took a lot of the advice, or what some of the actors had brought to the table, and I kind of intertwined that with what I had envisioned, and it wound up coming out even better that way.
Oh.
Yeah, so I do appreciate the fact that people did have their own vision, so it was more of a blessing than anything else. So even though I was stressed out, but...
Well, you have a nice quality of wanting to have, and being receptive and wanting to listen to also in their input too.
I think that's really important, especially me being new. I took in a lot of the opinions and advice that people had given me, especially some of the cast members have done theater for years, so it was definitely an honor to work with them and to listen to what they had imagined their characters to be, and then to, I guess, go forward with, the both ideas together.
You mentioned your vision. What was your vision?
Well, when I was writing this play, I based it on a similar situation that I had known someone to go through, and just the growth that that person went through. I saw that person go from this angry person to this loving, caring, charismatic individual. And I think
transformation of character.
And I think a lot of that came from forgiveness, not from others, but within herself. And I wanted to try to convey that message to the audience, that sometimes, life, is not always what you had hoped it to be or what you imagine it to be. But if you're forgiving with yourself, then you're able to, I guess, move forward and push forward and be the person that you want to be.
No, it's a very nice message, very optimistic.
Yeah.
So was this person very close to you?
Yeah, this person was extremely close to me.
Extremely close to you?
Yeah.
So it sounds like this person had very similar experiences than what you portrayed in the play.
Yes.
And does that person know that you wrote a play?
Yeah, they do.
Based on that?
They know certain things, yeah. They know that it skims the surface of their life, but it didn't go in too deep into that person. I don't want to.
No, you didn't want to do that, but you used their experience and created a very hopeful message for people.
Yeah, it was good to, I guess,
that was that would be taking off on Soledad then. Yeah, your main character. Well, one of your lead characters, right? I guess everybody in that play, in some ways, was a lead character, right?
Yeah, they all had their own, their own thing. I think they all brought something to the table that was enjoyable. So I treated every character or every person in the play as equal. I didn't say, main character. Everybody's there for the same, for the same goal, and that's just to perform for the audience.
No, it was very generous of you.
Yeah.
Your family, sounds like they really support your endeavor, and they're really behind you. I know your mother was sitting right next to me in the front row, and your father, I guess your father was there, your mother and father were there, yeah. So it sounds like they really give a whole, some families when you're growing up, they may hear when they hear that you want to be a playwright or an actor, they're not so happy about it.
Yeah.
But that wasn't your experience.
No. Not at all. My family has been such a great support system ever since I can remember. Anything that I've ever wanted to do, I've always had their backing. And I think that, having that family structure and that family dynamic really allowed me to be creative and allowed me to come into my own. So I truly appreciate it.
Do you think, what if they didn't give you the support, if they were dead set against it, do you think you would have done it anyway?
Yes. I just have that type of mentality. If somebody tells me, no, you can't do it, I'm going to still try my best and my hardest to accomplish what I feel like what's best for me.
So playwriting wasn't something that you initially were interested in, right? So how did you get to that point that you decided that you wanted to write a play?
It's an interesting story. I had an aunt that had terminal cancer. So me and my mother moved to Florida for 2 months, and taking care of my aunt day in and day out, going from hospital appointments, and just the stress of seeing someone you love, I guess, deteriorate in that form took a toll on me. And I think my outlet at that time was writing. and I came across the listing or the post, sorry, for the theater festival. And I said, you know what, let me give it a shot. So I started writing this, and then I told my aunt about it, and she was so excited, and I saw that she wanted this for me because I know that she felt like this was an outlet for me, and it made me happy, so she kind of pushed for me to continue with the script.
Oh, really behind you.
Yeah. So, I continued, and then when I got back from New York, I got to finish it and submitted it.
Can I ask you, how long did it take you to write this play?
Oh my goodness. Well, I started writing it during my last couple of days in Florida, and I really didn't get too far because, I was still dealing with, the situation. But when I got to New York, I had 1 day left before I had to submit it. So I wrote the majority of it, almost all of it, in that 1 day.
Really? Wow,
Yeah,
that's
so
quite
it was
a feat.
Yeah, it was so overwhelming, but it wound up
Must
being.
have pulled an all-nighter in that one.
I did. I did. But it wound up turning out to be.
Very successful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're thinking about, you'd like it to go to film now,
Yeah.
right? And not really theater, but film. Why film? How do you compare that to theater, and what was it about film that attracts you?
Well, it's funny. I had came out in an independent film just as, background. I was just, standing in. And just to see how everything worked and to see how, the set looked, it was just really intriguing. And I think that this theater, this festival was kind of like a platform for me to want to progress into something more or further. And I think film is something that would be very interesting in the long run. I know everything, baby steps, but in the long run I would like to see if I can.
So you see it as a progression, but what is it particularly that you like about film that you'd like to go to rather than theater, for instance?
Well, I do like theater. I like the rawness of it. I like, if theater to me is acting in its organic form, because you're on the stage, and if you mess up, it's like you have to keep on going, as opposed to film. If you mess up, you can cut and redo it.
That's a big difference.
Yeah, that's a huge difference. I think the reason why I want to go over into film is because it's a different challenge for me. And I always
like your challenges,
yeah, I always like to be challenged, and I always like to, I guess, challenge myself to see creatively what I'm capable of. And I think film is something that I would like to do. I would like to do documentary films.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm looking into that now, and I'm seeing, what steps I can take.
Any particular kinds of thoughts about documentaries that you'd like to pursue at this point, or is it still in the cooker?
Well, I do have an idea that I'm kind of working on. My father's uncle suffered from schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. I'm not too sure. I'm kind of figuring out his background, but he was homeless. And when he was out on the street, or in his time, nobody really knew what those sicknesses were. And he used to keep journals when he was out on the street. So I have his journals. They found his journals. So I kind of want to go through them and see what his life was like on the street, because he writes about places that he stayed, things that he's seen, events that were going on at the time. So I definitely want to look into that and see what life was like through his eyes.
That's very interesting. That sounds like a very it's a subject matter that I think a lot of people would be interested in
Yeah.
addition to your own personal interest. And that's my field.
Yeah?
Well, I work with, as a psychoanalyst,
Oh,
I
yes,
work
yes.
with people with all different kinds of conflicts, that they have in their life that affect their functioning, and schizophrenia is one of them, and many other different kinds of problems. I work with people all across the map, but certainly schizophrenia is one of them.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I've always been interested in psychology. I read books all the time. I love it. It's so nice to learn about how the mind works, and why people act the way they do and stuff like that. I do enjoy that too.